So I'm here today in these beautiful woods to tell you about these two lovely new stoves. They're from Primus, or Primus, we can't decide how to say it. But basically, Primus means first, because Primus, or Primus, made the first soot-free stoves, and they're even used on the first ascent of Everest. So two new stoves are going to be pretty exciting to have a look at. So two amazing stoves for really different environments. I've got the Micron III and the Ulti. Really amazing bits of kit, really different specifications. I'll start with the Micron because, if I'm honest, it's not going to take me long. Look how small it is. So this weighs in at 58 grams, which is the lightest stove that Primus has ever made. This is sort of ideal for lightweight backpacking. Obviously you need to take your own pot. A lot of people will be using things like titanium cups. This is where every gram counts. You know, you've got your ultralight backpacking tent and you've got your lightweight sleeping bag. Why waste all that extra weight on a stove? Really small, really compact, but still incredibly efficient. So for such a little stove, this has amazing output. This has 2,600 wattage. So if that doesn't mean anything to you, basically it's really pretty powerful for something so small. So you'll get quite a good cook time on there. One of the issues with a stove like this in the past is the fact that even though it's very light, they're not that great in the wind, because obviously you've got a lot of access for wind flow here. So they've got a really clever little mesh or gauze on top of this, which makes it wind resistant. It's pretty windy in here today and it's coped really well. The stove doesn't come with an inbuilt piezo, and that's sort of on purpose because a lot of people find they break anyway, and you can buy it with or without a separate piezo. Must admit, I will quite often just use a lighter, because why not? You've probably got one already. Comes with a really cute little tiny bag, and that just shows how small it goes. You can literally keep it in your back pocket. All these arms obviously fold in, so does the handle here as well, and so it does pack down really small. And when you're doing that, what's really obvious is the quality. It's really well made, and a lot of these ones sometimes feel really flimsy, like they're going to break when you're doing it. Not this one. Another thing which is quite impressive is how stable it feels as well. Obviously, there are other things that are going to feel more stable, but they weigh a lot more. But for something so small, it's a pretty solid base. Obviously, with stoves like this, sometimes it can be a little bit wobbly, need some even ground, but you can get a little gas stand that will support the whole lot and stop it tipping over as easily. Primus reckon you can get about 3.5 minutes for a litre of water boiling. But if I'm honest, it's so reliant on the temperature of the water, how windy it is, your gas, your altitude, things like that. But basically, it's really pretty impressive for something of this size. And the little handle's really ergonomic, and it gives you a good rate between just boiling as fast as you can and simmering as well. So if you do want to cook on it, you can. The gas canister it takes is a sort of standard screw thread fitting that we always stock here at Outside. Of course we recommend Primus, but other brands will fit, and they're quite easy to pick up all throughout Europe. So moving on to Primus's other new stove, this is the Ulti. So if the Micron III was sort of ultralight backpacking and sort of solo travel and things like that, I think the Ulti is sort of the polar opposite. This is the quickest boil times you can get in really cold conditions. So if you're melting snow and using those dehydrated meals, this thing will be absolutely amazing. It has an incredibly impressive output of 3,000 watts, so you are going to get really fast boil times. And you do have the ability to put it to a simmer as well, but of course its main selling point is the fact how quickly it will boil, so it can get really hot down there at that base. Something to bear in mind with the Ulti is it gets really hot. I mean, that flame is just amazing. But also it's quite close to the ground, and particularly it's been so dry this summer, the last thing we want is wildfires. So be really, really careful while you're doing this. Try and put it on something obviously solid and fire retardant. You know, putting it on a rock is probably a really good idea. Don't put it on some dry field or grass. One of the things that puts the Ulti apart from its competitors is the fact that it has this external fuel line. Now that's good for a few reasons. One, with these little legs that fold out, means it could be a bit lower to the ground and much, much more stable. So even if it's a simple thing like adjusting the amount of output it's got, you're not as likely to knock it over. So the other advantage of having the external fuel line is the fact that you can flip the gas canister upside down. Now don't do that straight away. You do need to wait till the stove's warmed up a bit. And what's interesting is the fact it's got this brass pipe here that goes into the flame, and that can warm the gas up before it gets used. And that's really, really critical in those colder conditions to make it burn really efficiently. So Primus have purposely made sure that the Ulti doesn't connect to the base, and that's for good reason. Some of the competitors will click in and that's really solid. And that maybe works if you're not using this sort of base. But what's great about this is if you've got big gloves and you're worried about knocking it over, actually it's much easier to pick it up using this big obvious handle, which is really secure, and it sits down really nicely. And there is a little lip on there as well. So even though it looks like it's balanced, it's much, much more secure than you think, particularly when there's a bit of water in there and a bit of weight. You're unlikely to knock that over, and you're unlikely to get it blown over in the wind. Another nice little simple feature is, the lid's easy to use again. It doesn't come off super easy, but will come off without too much effort. Nice big grab handle, and a little strainer as well. So if you're just boiling in it, you can strain it, and a little divot here so you can pour out your water if you are making coffee or something like that. So the Ulti weighs in at 600 grams. Now that is not the lightest on the market, but it's not trying to be. This is expedition use. It's a really solid bit of kit that's going to last you, and often you'll be sharing this with a few people. If the 1 litre pot isn't big enough for you, you can get a 1.7 litre separately and also a 3 litre. The pot is made out of anodized aluminium and again feels such good quality. I'm not going to be breaking that anytime soon. And it's got a really impressive and really well-made inbuilt heat exchange, and that makes it really, really efficient and also works really well with this base. Once again, the Ulti doesn't have an inbuilt piezo, and that's sort of on purpose because if that inbuilt piezo broke, you'd need a spare lighter anyway or some kind of way of lighting it. So they just leave it. You're going to have that with you anyway. Something reliable will always like that. Right, I'm going to move on to probably the most exciting thing about all this is the actual burner itself. It's pretty impressive. So it has no blue flame in this. It's basically called infrared. That makes it windproof. It also looks really cool. Now, for whether this is meant to be used in really extreme environments, that's sort of crucial because these other lightweight stoves you use, basically the wind picks up, they're nearly pointless. So that's absolutely brilliant. What's quite cool is the way it all packs away. So the burner and the pipe will all fold up and go inside the pot. You can't actually fit one of the gas canisters in there, but I don't think that's a problem because you probably aren't using a little gas canister like this anyway. You'll have a big chunky one because you're going away for a few days or there's multiple people with you. But it does leave a little bit of extra space. So you might get your piezo in there, a little bag that comes with it, and some other bits and bobs too. Once your stove and all your gear's packed inside it, it's really quite satisfying how the handle comes over the top, clips down here, and it's really secure inside. And then once you put the handle back again, you get this little thing here that slides down and locks the handle in place. So while I've talked about all the amazing features that make it brilliant for expeditions and high altitude and stuff like that, I really think I'd use something like this for solo camping because I'm not going the lightest you possibly can. I like a little bit more comfort, and it'll cook really efficiently, really quickly. You can cook in it because of the strainer, things like that. But if I'm making my dehydrated meals, I kind of want them to be ready pretty quickly. And then I can move on to making a brew or something like that. Obviously, if you are counting every gram, then let's look down at the Micron 3. So 2 lovely new additions to the Primus range. They obviously make lots more amazing things and also cooked us up some lovely little treats today in the woods here as well. If you like this video or found it useful, maybe consider subscribing to our YouTube channel.